Everyone was all smiles, bar the visitors, when the Falcons, who went in favourites, started well and skipped away to a handy lead midway through the first quarter. But by the first break, they were a point behind because of a sloppy pass, and that seemed to set the pattern for a display that got worse as the evening wore on. There is no doubt that the players, including the new recruits, Jerry Everett, the guard who has amazing ball skills, and tall centre Ivan Daniels, have talent. Wayne McDaniel, the second-year forward, who was the club's most valuable player last year, and Australian off-guard Mike Johnson, one of the hottest shooters in the land, are as good as you'd find. But the teamwork is lacking, I'm sorry to say, and the East Side team had a ball from just before half-time. At half-time, the home team were down 58 to 51. The margin had increased by three-quarter time to 85-71, and at game's end, they'd lost the game, and some friends, sadly, by 21 points. For the visitors, Vince Hinchin was the star, but all played well and were well organised by Brendan Joyce.
Ball from Joyce.
Yes, and Hinchin really controlling the game here.
Police divers have given up their search after a frustrating 4 days in which they uncovered all sorts of items except the murder weapon. They have searched waters under Carrington Bridge and Crosby Creek to no avail. But Newcastle detectives say the search is nowhere near over. They have talked to many prostitutes who work in the area in their drive to uncover some missing clue, and have been surprised to hear of previously unreported smaller attacks.
There has been a bit of violence with the girls where some money has been taken from them at knife point, but none of these originally had been reported, but now they have come to light, and we do hope that some of those can be followed up to a successful ending.
Is there a pattern in those sort of approaches?
No, there's no real pattern. It's the unfortunate part of it is that the time elapsed with those reportings of the rip-offs, and from there it just makes it very, very difficult to follow them up because of the time elapsed.
Detectives have also been sifting through crew lists of ships in the area following the discovery of blood at Lee Wharf. Although the blood was sent to Lidcombe Laboratories for analysis today, detectives are not putting too much store on it being related to the murder. They'll be putting together a dummy wearing the clothes that Cheryl Birchall was wearing the night of her death, and are particularly keen to hear from anyone who might know where her two-tone grey handbag is.
Suzanne Fleming is a mother of 5 and has run her own preschool at Wallsend. A friend's child experiencing learning difficulties inspired her to develop a storybook which could teach while entertaining. The Little Hill was the outcome. The concept is that the child makes up flashcards of words in the book and uses them to play word-finding games in the narrative. Ms Fleming admits that the use of the word cards is nothing new and says it is the change in emphasis away from the teacher which is important.
Direction. The child can actually make up the flashcards. They don't have to buy them. The child can sit down, and that can be a learning process too. from that then comes the idea that the child is actually taking the lead, doing the directing, and actually asking the parent to be a helper.
Do you think it's important that the parents play an active part in the education of their children?
Oh, absolutely. And for so long, I think that parents haven't really been encouraged to, and consequently then parents have felt that they're not able to. There hasn't been a great deal of importance placed on the fact that you don't have to have a degree to be an educator. By the fact that you're a parent, you have a child living with you and participating in your life, you are an educator.
This is the fourth year the Charity Day has been held, and once again it attracted a large field of entries from as far away as Moree, Sydney and the Central Coast. Organisers are hoping to raise at least $15,000 from this year's event, money which will go towards fitting out the Cessnock District Rescue Squad's new rescue truck. The new vehicle, when fully fitted out, will be stationed at Cessnock, while the existing truck will be garaged at Curry. And if enough money is raised from this year's Charity Golf Day, additional heavy-duty rescue equipment will be purchased for the squad. While it was a Charity Day, the standard of golf was excellent, and the fine weather ensured some good scores for a worthy cause.
That'll do it. Ooh, back here.
Well, I wouldn't say it was bad luck, it was probably more bad play than anything else. We shot poorly, and because we were shooting poorly, the guys didn't seem to want to make the effort to pick up defensively in their intensity and aggression, and everything fell away, and we just sort of running up and down the floor.
Big game tomorrow. What are some of the things you're going to be concentrating on?
Well, obviously we've got to pick up our defensive intensity and our concentration. We've got to our transition from offence to defence. We have to work a lot harder on getting back quicker and getting to the right position to force the West Stars to play from the outside instead of allowing them to get inside with the ball.
They're a tough side, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a tough side. They've had very good pre-season preparation. They've played in a couple of extra tournaments. They've had their team together most of the pre-season. So they're pretty settled, and they'll be tough.
Now the Falcons, a lot of new faces. How are they shaping up together?
Slowly but surely. I think, Ivan Daniels has missed out on a few pre-seasons because he wasn't allowed to play, no clearance and whatever, and the guys are starting to get together. The spirit is pretty good now. They combine well, they get on well, and it's just a matter of now putting together on the floor.
The name rolls like the foothills of the Liverpool Range, a district rich in prime farming and grazing land. Once a year, this town, arguably one of the prettiest in the Hunter, plays host to an uncanny test of stealth, control and precision. The annual Upper Hunter Championship Sheepdog Trials. About 140 entries have been received for this year's event. To the uninitiated, the sight of a working dog and its handler hustling and cajoling the pen of sheep through the three obstacles could appear a little out of place in today's so-called sophisticated world. But to those who appreciate the subtlety and complexity of a unique relationship between man and working dog, the sight of the pen of sheep reeling, well, it's more an art form, a glimpse at Australia's history. Each whistle, every gesture, a precise command, all under the watchful eye of Judge Pip Hudson. And for the locals, the event is a chance to catch up, to share their views on the state of the economy and how the year is shaping up for them. It's a social event, the Upper Hunter Championship Sheepdog Trials, but nonetheless an absorbing and serious look at a unique relationship which has helped fashion the farming of Australia.
moved down Hunter Street towards the city's mall to the music of the pipe and brass bands. Delegates displayed the 8 trade union banners which usually reside at Trades Hall. Some union representatives took the chance to display their views on a broad range of subjects. May Day has only become associated with the trade union movement in the past 100 years. For centuries before that, it was linked with spring in the Northern Hemisphere. In medieval England, May Day was marked by the colourful maypole dance. Labour May Day originated in America, where workers, fed up with 12-hour days and 6-day working weeks, organised to fight for an 8-hour day. In Australia, May Day was also central to the 8-hour working day campaign, and although no longer marked by a public holiday, it's celebrated with events like today's march.
Despite its naturally graceful appearance, dressage is a sport which demands precision and performance from both rider and horse. The 2-day championships at the Maitland Showground has become an important event on the New South Wales dressage circuit. Among the 135 entries from across the state was junior world champions Glenys Scott, mounted on Livius 28. The sport is described as the ballet of the equestrian field. Judges award points for sequences of set movements around the coloured markers, and there's no room for mistakes as the results of hours of disciplined training are put to the test. The Hunter Valley Dressage Association holds 4 major events throughout the year, the next being scheduled on the dressage calendar at Maitland for June.
According to police, 2 Vietnamese men who had been drinking at a Mayfield club got involved in an argument at about 1 p.m. yesterday. Police say one of the men then went to his house in Myola Street, where he collected a .223 semi-automatic rifle. He then went to the house of the other Vietnamese man and shot him in the leg. Later in the day, police and the Special Weapons Operations Squad converged on Myola Street, where the man had taken siege. At 8:35 last night, police decided to bring the siege to a head by firing tear gas into the house. A short while later, they burst in and found the man under a bed with his rifle and a large supply of ammunition. He was carried outside, where he was resuscitated and taken by ambulance to the Mater Hospital. Last night, the sleepy Newcastle street of Myola Street, Mayfield, was the scene of a 7-hour siege. Newcastle Police, along with the Special Weapons Operations Squad, had the area cordoned off and were trying to flush out a 43-year-old man who had barricaded himself inside this small semi-detached house with a .223 semi-automatic rifle. The siege followed a shooting at nearby O'Mara Street, in which a 17-year-old Vietnamese boy was shot in the leg. Speaking from his hospital bed today, the youth, Hugh Van Ming, said 2 men had an argument in the car park of a Mayfield club. One of the men had gone to a house in O'Mara Street, which Van Ming was also visiting. A while later, a man arrived with a rifle. In the ensuing drama, Van Ming, a bystander, was shot in the leg. After police had surrounded the Myola Street house, a negotiator attempted to lure out the besieged man. As afternoon dragged into night, it became clear that the negotiation attempts were getting nowhere. An interpreter also failed to get any response. At 8:35, police decided to bring the siege to a head by firing tear gas into the house. A short while later, they burst in and found the man under a bed with his rifle and a large supply of ammunition. He was carried outside, where he was resuscitated and taken by ambulance to the Royal Newcastle Hospital.
floating dock is now operated by local ship repair firm GH Varley. Varley has leased the dock on a short-term basis from the state government, which has now called for bids from interested parties. Today, Varley's first customer floated gracefully into the dock, the Navy's destroyer escort HMAS Torres. The work that will be carried out on the HMAS Torres is relatively simple. The hull will be scraped and the topsides repainted. The work will take 10 days to complete and cost around $150,000. The crew of 240 sailors will live ashore because of the dust created by grit blasting. Some former dockyard employees have transferred their skills to Varley's, although the contract will create about 50 short-term casual jobs. Shipping companies will be waiting to assess the performance of the new floating dock team before signing further repair work to Newcastle.
I think if the dock comes to a Newcastle firm as opposed to somebody from elsewhere in Australia, it'll be quite good for Newcastle.
So perhaps the reputation of the city's on the line with this performance?
Well, most certainly, and I'm sure the reputation of Varley's are on the line, and I'm sure they'll be able to pull through.
Best television coverage of surfing. Nominees are NBN Channel 3 in Newcastle, Channel 9's Wide World of Sport in Sydney, and Dynacom in the United States. Winner?
NBN 3.
It's the second year in succession that NBN has won the award for its coverage of Surfest. The award was presented to station manager James Mark Anthony at a gala night at the Sheraton Wentworth.
Firstly, I'd like to thank the Association of Surfing Professionals, specifically Graham Cassidy for all his work. It's tremendous to work with such professionals. Secondly, I'd like to thank our sponsors, BHP and Coca-Cola. Thirdly, I would like to thank the surfing professionals themselves who gave us such wonderful action to film and cover at Newcastle. And specifically, I'd like to thank Mark Richards, who, of course, it's a bit parochial, I know, but Mark has helped us out a lot up there in Newcastle, and we're glad to have him. And finally, I'd like to thank the NBN team, because we don't have any specific people up there. We have a team of people. I'd just like to quickly mention Rob Short, Reg Davies, and Nat Jeffries. They put it all together, and for them, we thank them very much. And thank you all for being here.
World champion Tom Curran and female world champion Frida Zamba retained their titles
Nat
and
Jeffries
received
to
trophies.
the Sport Award.
In fact, all the top names in surfing attended the function, which marks the official end of this year's World Circuit.
Confidence, I think, is a big thing with the young guys, and I think Steve's giving them the opportunity now to gain that confidence.
Well, I suppose the opposition that we're going to look out for, the fans, Steve Carfino and I suppose Paul Stanley, as well as anyone else.
Yeah, well, they're two of the major firepower for Hobart, and Steve Carfino, of course, is probably rated as one of the top guards in the country right now. And I think his matchup with Jerry Everett will be, pretty spectacular from a fan point of view.
They're saying Steve is the most exciting young basketballer to come to Australia.
Yeah, he's a very talented young player. He's very good. I still think, from what I've seen, and I haven't seen Jerry on the whole season, but I think Jerry has got more talent, more pure individual talent than any player I've seen come out to Australia.
That's a big rap.
That's a big rap, but I believe it's true. And I believe over the course of the season he'll prove that to be true.
Paul Stanley and Ivan Daniels is another matchup worth the fare in anyway.
That's right, yeah. Ivan had a good training session on Thursday and a good one on Tuesday, so I think he's ready to assert himself more as far as rebounding, scoring, and, basically just intimidating more inside.
Can we get a prediction from you, Wayne?
And I don't predict, I just try to produce. But I'm pretty confident. I'm not overly confident, but we match up with them pretty well, and I think if our defense is as intense as it was for most of the game against West Sydney, we'll definitely come out on top. Pretty well, I think.
Can we get a prediction from you, Wayne?
I like to sort of say I'm from the Leroy Loggins School of Thought in that I don't predict, I just try to produce. But I'm pretty confident. I'm not overly confident, but we match up with them pretty well. And I think if our defense is as intense as it was for most of the game against West Sydney, we'll definitely come out on top.
Thanks. Mate. Thanks, pal. Meanwhile, in the main preliminary fight, Central Coast boxer Troy Waters, the Australian junior middleweight champion, defeated by knockout well-credentialed American Negro Dwayne Lockman. Waters went into the ring as an outright underdog, but left as a future draw card after an outstanding display. Waters showed too much strength and class for the 2 times Texas Golden Gloves winner and must now surely deserve a shot at someone in world ranking. Troy Waters is one of 3 brothers that all hold national professional titles, which is a world first.
Well, there it is. I felt the joy.
But I was getting...